Hello everyone, my name is Thalia and thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be editing some film scans I actually have. I took, let me just put the volume up a little bit. So these images that you're going to see are some of my favorite ones. I mean, I only edit my favorite images. But all of these were taken on a film camera. So if you tuned into the video from last week, I mentioned how I love the way film photos come out. The colors are incredible, and we won't digitally. You can't capture the way color comes out in film, but you could definitely edit it to make it sorry, we're just having some technical issues over here. Okay, so sorry for the silence. This is a picture I took in Colombia. I went to go visit some family members out there. So as I said before, these photos were taken using film. So when you develop film, there's basically a bunch of things that can go wrong. You can sorry. Let's see. What could go wrong when you're using film? Well, the things that could go wrong is if your film gets really, really dusty, the dust will damage the film and it'll appear looking kind of like these white spots over here if you see them. Right over here as well. Another thing is scratches. The dust can scratch your film. One thing I did learn is when you're traveling with film, you have to be very careful. I actually messed up a whole bunch of rows because I wasn't being careful myself. I was in a rush to catch my flight and I accidentally let them put my film through an x-ray machine, and most of the film got really damaged and it got a bunch of like light leaks, which kind of wasn't cool. But I learned my lesson and I've never done it again. It always takes an extra 10 minutes for them to go put me aside to check out the film to make sure everything's okay, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, so the first thing I did was crop the image just to try to get as much of these white parts out of it. I think I can pull it in a little bit more. Okay, actually I'm just gonna leave it like that. So this type of editing I'm doing is kind of basic. You can do it on free software as well on like Pixlr. But I always like to zoom in. Okay. So I always pull the rulers out. I always recommend when you're adjusting these photos, especially if you're manipulating them the way I am, you want to keep track of where you are at all times. Okay, so this is the first section of my photo. As you can see, these little spots over here, that looks like it's splatter, kind of probably from water. Film can be damaged also if you don't develop it correctly. So if you're developing film and you change the temperature of the water while you're using it, it can completely ruin the film as well, which is something I also learned the hard way. Okay. Oh, this is lagging a little bit. That's probably why. So, sorry, the computer's acting a little crazy today, but it happens. Okay, now that is way too big. First of all, the opacity should be a lot higher. This circle should be a lot smaller. I don't know if you see it there. Okay. Opacity, normal. Sounds good. Alright, let's get to it now. So this tool is really good for when you want to cover things up. Let's say you were taking a family photo outside in front of a fence and something happens, we're in the corner, somebody threw something, and you can't crop it out. You could use the stamp tool to adjust it. Okay, that section looks good. Okay, over here it's a really problematic section. You can see over here these white spots, right over here, it's kind of everywhere. Let me put another ruler. I like to divide the photo in threes. Okay. The stamp tool is also my favorite tool to use when editing specifically film scans, because film already has a natural grain to it. So when you are, it's easier to mask the manipulation. And I always fix any image, whether it's film or make this a little, or digital images. Before I even do color editing, I make sure that I do this type of editing first. That way Photoshop doesn't mess up the image. I know this image kind of looks kind of boring right now, but that's because we're in the sky, so there's really nothing to look at. A fun fact about this image, I actually took it, I was on a motorcycle, and I actually took it while we were still moving. I've mentioned this in the video before, a lot of my photos that I take are kind of taken randomly and on the spot, so I've gotten really good at capturing good images quickly. Definitely took a couple years. These little dots always pop out for me, maybe not for others. Okay, so this whole section on the side, you can see there's a lot that you would have to edit. Good thing it's just the sky, so it's the same color. I could easily just go and fix it up. I don't like letting Photoshop decide for me a lot of the times. It does a good job for the most part, but sometimes it thinks it knows what you want to do and it completely ruins things. See, like if you saw right over here, I let Photoshop kind of decide what I wanted to cover, and it chose the wrong colors. So I'm gonna Command Z that. Okay, it's a little better. So I am going a little fast. I'm just so used to this that I kind of do it without thinking at this point. Okay, that looks good. All right, this is the other section. Let's pull this ruler down. Hi, Lori. Thanks for joining. I'm not gonna lie, when I just remembered now, when I was taking this photo, I was really scared. It's really hard to balance yourself on a motorcycle while holding a camera. I usually travel with my digital camera and my film camera, so I always have extra weight on me. It's a little loud. One of my favorite parts about this image is I obviously took it because it's an incredible view and I've never seen something like that in person. I've always heard my dad talk about how beautiful Colombia was and all the mountains, but I never got to see it for myself until I think a summer ago. But as I was editing and choosing these images, I actually see on this rock over here, there's like a writing. I think it's a rock, but there's writing, and I thought that was really cool because I had no idea it was there. I didn't even see it at the time. That was fine. Like this actually seems like it's part of the image, like it's some type of dried up patch of grass, but I don't like the way it looks, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Over here too, I don't like these colors. This over here. I try my best not to manipulate anything that has to do with nature, because I like showing things as they are. That's always been my motto when it comes to photography. Oops, do not like those two. So right here, if you can see it, I keep doing it and undoing it. There's this circle that pops up, which is me trying to fix it. The circle is way too big, so I'm gonna. Okay. It's cool. So I know people don't use film a lot nowadays. You know, why would you when you have digital cameras? But I think it's always fun to occasionally buy a disposable camera, or if you still have an old, or someone you know has an old film camera, you should always pick it up and use it. My favorite part about taking photos in film is that you have no idea what they're gonna look like until you get your film back. It's kind of nerve-wracking, definitely as a photographer, because you don't want to spend this money on film just for it to go to waste. But the more you use it, the easier it is. Working with film has also allowed me to become a quicker photographer, since I can't see what I'm photographing. Like I can't see what the image looks like after. I just have to trust my instinct. So using film has actually made me a better digital photographer. I think this is good. Let's pull the ruler down. See, like this little spot right here, that could be changed. This, like, this is a pretty good image. There wasn't a lot of dust, which I'm really thankful for. Oops. Sorry. I always do that. A lot of the times, if I'm taking like family photos or photos of my friends, I actually do use film cameras. If I have my film camera on me, I whip it out. If not, if there's like a CVS or a Rite Aid around, or Walgreens, anywhere that they sell disposables, I'll grab one. I used to be obsessed with my mom's photos when I was little, and so to this day, I actually made a whole project in college about my ancestry, and I used a lot of the photos my mom and my grandma took. I don't know, there's something about it. I feel like, especially when it comes to photographing groups of people, film definitely allows you to capture who they are. Because nowadays, especially with, sorry, I lost my thought. Everyone's always camera ready, and they always want to see the photo right after you take it, and then they'll probably ask you to retake it and all of that. But with film photos, they can't see it, so they're just gonna have to wait. They don't perform for the camera as much. Okay, I think this looks good. Over here you can see that I was moving. I don't know if you see this line here. That is definitely some, oops. It's definitely some either chemical problem or light leak. This is probably lagging, but it seems like there's some buffering issues.